Yeah. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Today, we have joining the show special guest John Reed, Jacksonville Jaguars beat reporter for the Florida Times-Union, to tell us about Urban Meyer and him likely becoming the Jags' next coach, and to give us a few of his thoughts on the NFL playoffs so far. But before we get to that interview with John Reed, you know what we got to do. Let's knock out the particulars, shall we? So, first and foremost, again, thank you for joining the show. If you're watching on YouTube, chances are you are, go ahead and click that subscribe button in the lower right corner of your screen and click that bell so you can be notified anytime we post new content. That way, whenever a new show comes out, you'll get it, you can hop on it, all right? Make sure you watch it, leave comments, do whatever you do, all right? If you prefer the show in its audio only format, you can listen to the show wherever you get your podcasts. All right. We're available on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, whatever it may be. Okay. You can Overcast, Breaker, whatever. You can check us out there. Just type in the Format Podcast and we should pop right up. Okay. By the way, same thing on YouTube. If you're looking for it, just type in the Format Podcast. Should be about the fourth or fifth result that comes up in the search. Okay. As we mentioned, iTunes, if you would please head on over to iTunes, search the Format Podcast, and rate and review. Please give us that 5-star rating. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. Give us that 5-star rating. You wouldn't know how much it helps. Also, please make sure you leave some feedback, leave comments, good or bad, whatever. I would prefer good, but if it's bad, so be it. I'll take it into account and try to improve. All right. All those things help our ratings, help us rise, and help us continue to keep putting out that good content for you. Okay. If you're on social media, first, Twitter. I tweet a lot. I tweet a fair amount, but you can find me on Twitter, and that is at at Bruce F.A. Hope. That's at Bruce F.A. Hope on Twitter. If you're on Instagram, the address is at the Format Podcast, at the Format Podcast. And if you want to email me, you can do that too. You can email me at theformatpodcast@outlook.com, theformatpodcast@outlook.com. Leave me comments, shoot me an email, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, whatever you say. I just appreciate the interaction, and it also lets me know that you are listening. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Also, if you enjoy the show, whether it's the audio podcast, whether it's the video on YouTube, please don't hesitate to share it. Share it. Just by the sheer mathematics. If you enjoy it, you listen to it, you share it, they enjoy it, they listen to it, they share it. We're going to get this out here to more and more people. All right. And that's what we're trying to do. Get it in the eyes and the ears of more and more listeners. Okay. Because I'm not your ordinary sports talk. I'm going to give it to you how I feel it. And I'm definitely going to give it to you full of information. Okay. We're doing our best to have bigger and better guests as often as we can, as well as to provide you with my own unique thoughts on things. All right. So anyway, with all that said, sit back, relax, and listen up to episode 89 of The Format. Joining me today on the Format Podcast to talk some football, NFL news is Jacksonville Jaguars beat reporter for the Florida Times-Union, John Reed. John, how you doing? I know it's a lot going on. Thanks for taking the time out to stop by.
Yeah, no problem at all. It's probably a good day for Jacksonville, I would think.
I would think so. So, obviously we're getting down to the end of the NFL season, and the teams not in the playoffs are making moves to secure their future or try to secure their futures. So, obviously, one of the biggest stories in the NFL this offseason is the Jacksonville Jags courting former Utah, Florida, and Ohio State head coach Urban Meyer, one of the biggest names out there. And it's looking like he's going to get the job. And from reports I've read and heard, the deal is almost done. So, as the Jags beat writer, you're close to the situation. What are you hearing? What does it entail? How much control will he have? What's the money looking like? Have you heard any of these details yet, or is it just kind of up in the air?
Well, let's go back to the first thing you said. I mean, right now they're in the finalizing stages. I would think at this point it's just the lawyers on both sides trying to get a deal done.
Mm-hmm.
Look like that deal will probably get done, and they'll probably either announce his hiring either to this afternoon or look like either this evening or tomorrow morning. And they probably won't have a press conference until tomorrow. But looking on salary wise, he's looking around from what I've heard through sources about 12 million a year. And I don't know all the parameters on how much control he has, and what the situation is with the with what the direction that they're going to go with the general manager. I've heard some that says that he has a relationship with Trent Baalke, who is the assistant general manager, and that might be something that they might hire him. I don't know if that's the greatest choice, but I think at this point, whatever Urban Meyer want, I
Mm-hmm.
think he pretty much going to get it. And also heard that some of the concessions that, well, not so much concessions, but some things that he wants to be implemented is upgrading their facilities. And
Hmm.
I probably said that the first day I walked over there and saw those, that there are there's a many colleges in this country, top, major Division I programs that has
Mm-hmm.
facilities better than this franchise. So that definitely has to improve in the weight room, and that's something that he wants to get implemented. And there's been a standstill, but when these coach searches happen, there's always intermediaries discussing, and from what I'm hearing, they've been in conversation since November. And
Hmm.
yesterday they had their second meeting, and last Friday was what you could say the first official interview that Urban had with Shad Khan on his yacht down there in Miami before that national championship game. And you know, I think from my personal opinion, I mean, if you wanted to get someone in here who's a proven winner, I mean, he's that guy. I
On a
mean,
collegiate level, let's keep
yeah,
that.
yeah,
We
yeah.
haven't
Well,
seen
on
him do
collegiate
anything in
level,
the
but
NFL.
when you win three national championships, it
Mm-hmm.
ain't always about the X and O's. It's about developing a culture, getting along with the players,
Mm-hmm.
identifying talent. And I've always said the biggest issue with the Jaguars is that, well, the number one issue I felt was not enough communication between knowing young players of the 21st century
Mm-hmm.
with the kind of formula that they were developing with the people in place in that front office,
Right.
and also talent development and just in analyzing talent. I mean, they brought in talent, but it didn't never fit, you know.
Right.
And I think this guy, when you look at his track record, I mean, college is college, but when you
Right.
go with his record, 85 percentage winning percentage, and the things that he's going, I mean, he's going to bring in a good staff. I mean, he's always brought in a good staff wherever he was at. And I feel if a guy can win in Bowling Green, I mean, that was his first stop.
Right. Yeah.
He can win pretty much anywhere. But NFL is a different monster, as you related to, and this ain't no. Another thing is, this is not going to be like an overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we bringing in Urban Meyer and we're going to be in the playoffs.
Right.
It's not going to be like that. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I mean, obviously they're going to draft Trevor Lawrence with that number one pick, but they got so many holes on this roster. you're probably looking at least 2 years that they could be a competitive player in their own division, let alone trying to make the playoffs. So it's a lot in play, but I think that for an owner, I feel, and I just my opinion, I think for an owner who I felt really sat on his hands for at least 3 seasons, I thought he should have made some coaching changes, and not so much Doug Marrone, but implementing to Doug to make changes in his staff. And I also felt that after the 2019 season, the season before this one, I thought that Doug probably should have been his final season in my opinion. So it's a lot of things in play, but I think this franchise is finally moving in a direction of trying to win. I mean, I think that's what the fan base biggest complaint is, that they just didn't feel that the owner was serious about winning. He was serious about Lot J and making money and revenue streams and all those kind of things. But I don't think that the fan base, and including myself, I didn't think that he took winning serious to bring a guy like Dave Caldwell back. And that you can't win if you don't have talent. I mean, ain't no question about it. You got to win in this league. You got to have talent, and you also got to identify your flaws. And you can't be a general manager who want to save face and don't recognize the mistake and can let that mistake continue on because you made it. So I think it's a good day for Jacksonville, for this franchise.
Okay, so one of the things I was looking at, and one of the reasons I was asking you about Urban Meyer's prospective level of control was he's been away from the sideline in terms of coaching for the last 2 seasons, but he has been covering college football closely, and obviously he has his ear to the pulse, knows a lot of the elite players. Obviously, we know he's in love with Trevor Lawrence. How well do you think that's going to work in terms of player evaluation, player development? Like we saw with Pete Carroll when he came out of college at USC for the first few years until he kind of got away from the college game more. He was really in tune with the players coming out because he had just been there. He had seen a lot of them. He had recruited a lot of them. How do you think that helps Urban Meyer in terms of, if indeed everything goes as we suspect it'll go, in terms of, the draft, player evaluation, and player development, as well as the communication factor you mentioned?
Well, he's going to be on the job training. I mean,
right.
There's no question that this is a far different game than the college game. I do think that he has the hindsight for being 17 years as a successful coach, that he's going to know exactly what's needed. He's going to know exactly what kind of player he wants to fit, what kind of system he's going to run. And but he's going to have to adapt. I mean, he's going to have to adapt to this NFL. This NFL game is not like the Big Ten Conference, and it's not the SEC. So he's got to come up. I mean, obviously, everybody can see. If you look at Urban Meyer team, you know that he's going to look for speed. This team has to get more speed at the skill position. So that I know that's going to be already first order of business when they go into that draft. But when you look at what he has on his plate, you got 11 picks. I think you got 5 picks, top picks. I mean, you got 2 first-round picks. I think you got 2 second-round picks. So you have the makings of adding talent, young talent, and I think right now, just he's coming in at NFL basically blind, inexperienced. I think he has a good grasp of what are the talented players that played on that college level that's coming into this draft. I think what his issue is going to be is they got 90 million. They got a little more than about almost 95 million in cap space. So one of the things probably will be a growing pain is what kind of veteran do you want to bring to Jacksonville to blend in with this young team? And not having the experience of the NFL, I think it would be to his benefit to not just hire the assistants that he had on those previous staffs at Florida, Ohio State,
That was going to be my next question. Yeah.
and maybe look at trying to get some people maybe he has had a relationship with or affiliation with or just recommendation to come in to help him in that process. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why it matters. To me, it matters to his success that he's got to have a strong general manager, particularly the first 2 seasons he's here to help navigate that, because this roster needs help, you know.
And that's kind of one of the things that I was going to ask you about is if any names have surfaced in terms of the staff that he's putting together. Do we have any idea of whether it's mostly college guys or a mix of college and pro assistants and position coaches, or, where are we on that?
What I heard, he's basically looking at guys that he's had a relationship with.
Mm,
He's looking at former coaches that's been on his previous staffs, and I don't
mm,
think that's I mean, hopefully they're not all of them going to be that way, but
right.
every coach want people that they're comfortable around, that they
Mm-hmm.
know what their track record is, and those kind of things. And that's probably the reason for that. But I do think that he has. You have to get some NFL
Yeah.
experience on that staff,
Yeah.
and maybe he might have input to. I really feel though that Urban is going to have a lot of input. I mean, he's going to have a lot of input in the decision making to construct that roster. Even if you have, say, if they hire Trent Baalke, I do think that Urban Meyer word probably is going to be, a little. It's going to play a heavier role than Trent when it comes to talent evaluations. But
Mm-hmm.
I do think that he has to, it would be wise to him to add some NFL experience around him. I think
Right.
even for a guy that successful, you know.
Right. So I heard you mention Trevor Lawrence earlier. Are we pretty sure that the Jags are going to take him number one overall? Because there's still the option of, unlikely as it is, you could trade the pick and that pick you get a haul for it. And then of course, there are other quarterbacks coming out. Are we pretty sure that the Jags are going to go with Trevor Lawrence at number one?
Well, I'll say this: we had an interview with Shad Khan after the after he fired Doug Marrone,
Mm-hmm.
and one of his remarks was that we haven't had a franchise quarterback in 8 years. Basically, we hadn't had a franchise quarterback since he's been the owner.
Mm-hmm.
And he said out of his own words that that's a top priority. We have to get a franchise quarterback
Okay.
from everything. I mean, Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields is a great quarterback too, but
Mm-hmm.
I would think at this point that they're going to go with Trevor Lawrence. I
Okay.
also think that there's been something reported that Urban Myers kind of projected that Lawrence was a little ahead of Fields. So
Okay.
I don't know what basis that have, but
Mm-hmm.
everything I hear, I think that's the guy that they're going to draft.
Okay. All right. So quickly before I let you get out of here, let's talk playoffs so far. Has anyone or anything you've seen in the playoffs so far surprised you? For me, it's the beating that the Browns put on the Steelers. I love to see it. I know as a journalist, I'm supposed to be objective, but I am a fan of Baker Mayfield, and I'm enjoying watching him have success. What has, if anything, surprised you so far in these playoffs?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. All the rest of those games, Saturday and Sunday, were close games. I look up there on television, it was 28-0. I say 28-0.
Yeah.
I was like, good Lord. Man. And I don't even think the first quarter was over with. So that
Right.
really was a big surprise. I'm still trying to figure out like what happened to Pittsburgh, a team that was undefeated for like the first 2-3 months of the season, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like they went into that game and it's just like Ben Roethlisberger, he just didn't look good. They couldn't play defense, and
Mm-hmm.
they've been trending downward for the final third of the season. But
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised by the Rams. I didn't figure that they would. I saw them play Seattle in that final game of the season, and they played them. I mean, it was a nick and tuck game, but I was little surprised about how dominant the Rams defense was against Russell Wilson and those guys. Those
Mm-hmm.
guys couldn't really do anything. The offensive line got beat,
Mm-hmm.
and they really, from a defensive standpoint, you look at the Rams, they had quarterback issues and those kind
Mm-hmm.
of things.
Mm-hmm.
And that defense really took control of the game. I mean, Seattle couldn't get the ball to their playmakers. Russell got sacked. I mean, it was a couple of times in that game in the third quarter, he got sacked like back to back plays. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you can't. I mean, I was a little shocked by that, but I'm looking at this Tampa Bay team. I'm I don't know what to make of them. I mean, you think that they got all this talent, and I don't think their secondary is up to par. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what type of game that they're going to play the Saints this week.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've been basically blowed out twice. You
Yeah.
know, and the GOAT, what everybody say that
There
he's a
you go.
whole completely different player in the playoffs and
Mm-hmm.
those kind of things. And I really don't think the Saints. I mean, you might disagree, but I really don't think the Saints is a Super Bowl. I mean, they're a good team, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if they could say if Green Bay win. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think they can go up to Green Bay
They
and beat
can't.
Green Bay.
They
You
can't.
know,
No,
and
I don't think they can. Breeze's arm is already about to fall off. Furthermore, going up there to the, quote unquote frozen tundra, playing in those type of weather conditions, him being a dome quarterback and
Mhm,
starting his career in San Diego and then being a dome quarterback all these years, he
mhm,
hasn't really played in the cold in a meaningful game, since Purdue,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
So yeah, he went to school in the Big Ten, but I don't think physically he can handle that anymore.
Just
I, I what I do think is interesting, this is something I thought about, I'll pose it to you real quick, is the Saints and the Rams, two teams that for years have been predicated on explosive, high-flying offenses, are
mhm.
both suddenly dominant defensive teams. What
Yeah.
do you attribute that to? The change in their philosophies almost.
Well, I definitely know from the Saints because I'm a little more familiar with them. I
Hmm.
mean, it's been their problem for a long, long time.
Yeah,
They've
all those
always
years
had
Drew
this
Brees was
high
going for
explosive
5,000
defense.
yards. It's
Yeah.
because the defense, was putting them in holes. Yeah.
But their defensive front, man, I mean, those guys, they really made the improvements where they needed to make it. They got fast linebackers
Hmm.
and they got players who can come off the edge and get after the quarterback.
Hmm.
And I think I mean, the one thing I've always used to say about the Saints secondary, they would never play the ball. They would always face guard or never look up for but they would be on the receiver, but they would never look up to defend the ball. And now that's not the case anymore. But to me though, when you're talking about the Saints, I just think their window is closed. I think they've allowed themselves to, even if you go back to that Rams game a couple of years ago with the pass interference call, I just think that their window is closed. And yes, it would be a great story for Drew Brees to go
Hmm.
back and win a Super Bowl for the first time since '09. I just don't think that the window is closed. And I think for the Rams just the defensive front. I mean, Jalen. I mean, it ain't just Jalen. I think they got a great secondary. The linebackers is good. They're not great, but that defensive front, Donald is just a beast. You can't block him. He takes two blockers each time. He
Hmm.
still make plays. And
Right.
I think for both of those teams, man, they looked at what they needed and they went out and filled the right hole. They filled the right people in with those holes that they had. And you got to have a great defensive front. And I think both those teams have a great defensive front.
Got you. Finally, what's your feeling on Baltimore versus Buffalo this weekend? You got two of the best young QBs in the game getting ready to go at it. Neither one of them had playoff success until this year. Now they're both over that hump. Who comes out on top, and who's better in your eyes between
Well, I like
Josh
Baltimore.
Allen and Lamar Jackson?
I would like to see Baltimore win that game.
I agree.
For all the negative stuff, and
Hmm.
it's just like every time I just hate sometimes when I hear and read things that a guy might have had two bad games, and it's like the world has ended. It's like
Mm-hmm.
people still upset he was the MVP and they didn't advance for in the
Mm-hmm.
he didn't meet expectations in the playoff, but it still don't take away from that great season he had.
Right.
And I think they got the defense. I think that obviously Buffalo. I mean, Allen is a great quarterback. I mean, they got great receivers. They put up points,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't allow them to dominate you offensively. So, but I think that I think Baltimore could be put to the test. I think I don't know. I just think that they're due. I mean,
Okay.
I think those guys still remember
Right.
last year and the
Mm-hmm.
disappointment of last year, and they
Right.
didn't get where they wanted to go. But I'm going with Baltimore.
And you think Cleveland has a chance in Kansas City?
No, sir. Even though that's
Wow.
your team,
No, no, Cleveland's not my team. I like Baker. I'm a Baltimore fan, but I
uh,
mean,
I
I
think
think
I
that game
think
would probably be better than people think.
I think they played their Super Bowl in that fantastic game last week. But it's
Fair
been
enough.
so hard to stop Kansas City with so many different weapons. They got
Mm-hmm.
you shut down one, you got four more to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
I just think their offense is too explosive, and if you beat them, you got to get in a shootout type of game. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Cleveland is ready for that for 2 weeks in a row, man. But I love their running game. I love their running backs. I love some of the things that they've changed and
Mm-hmm.
in their culture that they feel that they're not in, they used to be intimidated by Pittsburgh. They don't feel like they that it's been so bad over the years and they kind of played that way. Have
Mm-hmm.
leads, lose leads, those kind of things. But I think the best of Cleveland will probably be next season. But I think they finally got a coach, which has been a problem with that franchise, that fit with what they need to do with the talent that they have. And I think the best of Cleveland would be next season.
Okay. So John, I know you got to get out of here. Before you do that, I've been hearing your phone going off. You got any hot breaking news for us here?
No, I just rapping for which he said that
Uh-huh.
longtime college coach Charlie Strong is a name to watch for Urban Meyer staff, which I would think that's a possibility because I don't think
Uh,
he's right now
well, he was
on.
with him in Florida when they were winning those championships. He was a defensive coordinator. That could be interesting.
And he would be a good guy. I mean, I think he would be somebody that they need a hard nosed defensive
Mm-hmm.
coach who doesn't take no mess.
Mm-hmm.
I think a guy like Miles Jack could really adapt to someone like Charlie Strong.
Okay.
But you know what, man? Just a quick thing here. It's just I think this franchise. There are some people who doesn't think that Urban Meyer is I mean, a guy who quit. Had health issues, and you don't know how long he's going to be here in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
But I commend this owner for because I mean I ain't I ain't been very supportive of some of his decisions, man.
Mm-hmm.
From not lack of transparency
Mm-hmm.
to just keeping guys on the job
Mm-hmm.
because it's convenient, I think. But I think when you go out and say who's the best guy available, who's somebody different, who got a track record of never losing. This guy never had a losing record in 17 years of coaching. And to go out there, spend the money. I mean, it's going to take money to get someone to come in here. I think the guy is tired of I think he understands that you got to put a good product on the field to reap the benefits of having people to come to see your games. And it might have finally the light I think has shined that you gotta win. Winning is important, not just like Jay and trying to get a new stadium refurbished or whatever they're trying to do. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that he's gone out and said, "This is my target," and I think Urban Meyer has been their target even during the season. And I think that he went out and he went and got the guy that he feels that can turn this thing around. And I think that's a good thing for an owner who I felt has basically been sitting on his hands since they played that AFC Championship game in 2017. So
All right,
good.
John, we'll leave it there, man. Thank you so much for the updates and all the good information you're giving on what's happening inside the Jags and also your thoughts on what's going on currently in the NFL playoffs. Keep me posted, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, appreciate it.
Thanks.